Yes guys, welcome back to Asian One-to-One Football Coaching. I'm Coach Indy, and on today's episode we're analysing a game between USA and England from the FIFA Women's World Cup semi-final 2019, which USA win 2-1. Now before we get stuck into this, I need you all to hit the subscribe button, leave a like and leave a little comment saying what you like about the video. Now, with regards to both teams' form and their managers and personnel and formation, we'll start with the USA first. They started in a 1-4-3-3 formation. The manager was Jill Ellis. She managed to help win the World Cup 4 years prior, so she's been given the opportunity to defend the competition, if you like. In terms of the personnel, in goal, Nehar in goal, right back O'Hara, next to her Dal Kemper, next to her Sauerbrunn, and then Dunn at left back. Three in midfield, we have got Horan, Eritz and Lavelle, and the three in advanced positions on the right hand side, Heath on the left, press, and up front Morgan, who was the captain for this game. With regards to England, they played a 1-4-4-2 formation. Their manager was Phil Neville, ex-Manchester United and Everton player. He hasn't managed at the World Cup before. This is his first competition, or first World Cup in terms of a manager and a manager of the women's team as well. In terms of their lineup then, so Telford in goal, Bronze right back, Houghton the skipper, right centre half, Bright and then Stokes. On the right we had Mead, Walsh, Scott and then Daly on the left, and then they played two up front with Ellen White and Paris. Now with regards to personnel missing for both the teams, so a big team news for USA's point of view was that Megan Rapinoe was not in the lineup. Now she's been a real talisman for and a real figurehead for USA football, especially in recent years, and her to miss a big game like this in the semi-final was a massive boost for England and maybe a less of a boost for the USA. Nevertheless, they have quite a fantastic squad, and we'll dive into that a bit more as the session goes on. But yeah, she wasn't. She wasn't involved at all in the game. She didn't do the warm up. She was named on the bench, but she didn't do the warm up initially. It turns out actually at the end of the game, in the post-match interview that the manager did, Jill Ellis, she mentioned that she had a minor hamstring injury. So I think if push comes to shove, she would have risked. Maybe for the game went to penalties, or if England won in the game and USA needed a goal, maybe she would have risked to bring her on. But to start the game, Jill Ellis decided not to, and it wasn't worth taking the chance. With regards to England, they had a couple of players missing as well. So the goalkeeper, Karen Bardsley, she was injured. She done a hamstring the game before, so she was missing. I'm not sure how serious it was, but she was missing for the game. And then also Tony Duggan, who normally plays in centre field, she was missing as well, but she was on the bench. She just rotated with Walsh, I believe it was, who come in. So England missing a couple of players, USA missing, well, normally their joint captain, because Morgan and Rapinoe and another, I'm not sure who that was, are sort of joint captains for the US. So that's sort of the team news and the formation and sort of the managers sort of to speak of. So with regards to both teams forming the competition and personnel's form throughout the competition as well, USA played 5, won 5, scored 22 and conceded 2. Both Megan Rapinoe and Morgan have both scored 5 goals apiece, alongside England's Ellen White, also scoring 5 goals. England's form, played 5, won 5, scored 11, conceded 1, so marginally better in the defensive department, but not so handsome in the attacking department. But nevertheless, both teams in fantastic form, which you expect going into a semi-final of a World Cup. So with regards to the game itself and some of the key moments, so in the opening sort of spell of the game, England actually had decent possession of the football. For the first sort of 3-4 minutes, they've eased themselves into the game, and USA didn't really have much of the ball at all, if any at all. So I know it was only a few minutes into the game, but USA looking a bit nervy and England actually looking quite assured. After the first 5 minutes, though, this is when USA sort of come into their own. They had a few chances with Lavelle in midfield, a tricky little left-sided player. He likes to sort of drift in field and get shots away. And then also Morgan, the captain, she had a chance inside the box from a second phase from a corner and just blazed over the crossbar. But the signs were there that sort of USA was sort of trying to impose themselves in the game. And that sort of leads me to the opening goal in the game, which was the 10th minute. So what happens is, in this, O'Hara sort of makes a run down the right hand side. So England have back into their shape in here. USA, and these sort of positions in here, just advance everyone slightly. Anyway, the ball gets played sort of diagonally down here, and it was number 7 here. Heath actually steps over the ball, allows O'Hara to get the ball down the far line here, and then she gets time on the ball, looks up, looks to cross the ball in, and as England's sort of retreating back in here, and Morgan's making a run in here, occupying the centre halves, so the game's just a bit more advanced for the USA. So as the ball sort of crosses about to come in, Lucy Bronze, the number 2 here for England, she scans the shoulder, has a quick look to see where her opponent was, which was the number 11 here, press for the USA. And notice she's got 3 or 4 yards, so there's 3 or 4 yards distance between, and she's got sort of outside the far post. There's not immediate threat as the play is sort of developing. But as the ball comes in, she comes to this narrow position here, press makes up massive ground, and actually Lucy Bronze doesn't actually scan the shoulder any longer after the first time, and she doesn't recognise that the pitch has changed. So as you get told as a fullback when you're younger, and as you come through the academies, etc., when you're in these sort of defensive positions, when you're sort of dealing with crosses and sort of dealing with the opposition's build-up play in the final third, is always scan your shoulder every sort of 1.5 to 2 seconds max, and maybe even sometimes sort of less than that as well, because the pitch just constantly is changing. So she has a look when the ball sort of the play sort of developing and she's retreating back into a position, but she doesn't look again after that. And as the cross comes into the far post, Telford comes across the goal to cover the front post, but to be fair to Press here, she rose like an absolute salmon ahead of Lucy Bronze and heads into sort of the near top corner into here, giving sort of Telford no chance really in terms of the accuracy of the head and sort of the pace as well. Sort of she couldn't quite react to it. So that was actually a really fantastic header actually at the far post, just because it recognises how important that run at the far post can be for an opposition sort of winger or striker coming in. So that's sort of 10-11 minutes gone into the game. USA are 1-0 up. Brilliant start for them in the game. One note and one statistic sort of note at this point here, USA have scored in every game so far, and now in this game as well, in the first 15 minutes of every game. So they are traditionally very, very fast starters, and you probably could recognise that with the 22 goals or now 23 goals they've scored in the competition already. So that was maybe a bit ominous already for England. They conceded, and they would have known that statistic going into the game. Phil Neville and his backroom staff would have checked all this sort of statistics along with this sort of analysis and sort of mentioned to the England team that they come out the blocks very, very quick. We need to sort of impose our game, which they did. England did do that for the first 3 or 4 minutes and not let them impose their game. But after that, obviously, like I said, USA come into it and they've scored the goal. So that's 1-0 after sort of 10-11 minutes into the game. For the next sort of 8 to 10 minutes before England actually get the equaliser, England actually again the pattern goes back to sort of the first 3 or 4 minutes. England have plenty of the possession of the ball, looked assured, and then USA were almost playing a little bit on the counter-attack, and they had 1 or 2 sort of moments where scared England. They weren't sort of big chances, but they scared England in moments that they could sort of hurt them and double their lead. In terms of the England goal, so with regards to how England sort of equalised in the game, so number 4 here for England, number 4 there for England, Walsh, she plays quite an instrumental part in the goal actually. So she gets possession of the ball. I think there's a bit of a combination play from the right back and the centre half. Eventually she picks up the ball here. Rather than playing safe and playing backwards, sideways or backwards, she hits a diag into Daly over here, the number 11 for England. The diag comes in, and as a winger straight away, sort of certainly when I was growing up, it might be certainly a little slightly different now, but the number one thing you want to do as a winger is to be one-on-one with your fullback, take them on, possibly get a shot away, or worst case scenario, even get a cross away. So they're the sort of things. So as soon as you've got that 1v1 situation as the twos come across, straight away is two things in her mind. Can I take her on? Can I get a shot away? What she does is that she actually does neither, which was actually quite surprising. That she dribbles slightly but doesn't really take her on, sort of just makes her back pedal slightly and just crosses the ball in quite early. So as she sort of dribbles into this position here, not really taking on her fullback, but she crosses the ball in early. USA centre halves are retreating, and England sort of forward players are getting into advanced positions so they can try and obviously score from the cross. So she just whips the ball in with her left foot, takes a mini deflection off the outstretched leg of O'Hara, and Ellen White, the number 10 here for England, she sort of comes in on the back of the centre half, Dal Kemper's left shoulder. So as Dal Kemper's sort of in this position here, she hasn't scanned her shoulder, she's not recognising that Ellen White is this side of her. And she drifts into this position here. As the ball comes in, she arrives, meets the ball in this position here, and it's a really, in my opinion, a world-class finish. So as the ball comes in, she recognises a decent pace on the ball. She can't sort of swing her left foot at it because the ball's slightly, she's reaching for the ball. So this is what she does, she opens up her body and just sort of opens up her foot and allows the pace on the ball to hit her foot, and the ball sort of glances off her foot and goes into that far post, off the post, and it really is a world-class finish. The perfect way to sort of, to attack the space and recognise the defensive weakness of the centre half, but also how to sort of guide a finish as well. It really was a class finish. So that's 20 minutes gone into the game, and England are back into it. It's a really sort of good response from them, bearing in mind of sort of what USA have done in the past and in this competition so far. But they're back in the game, and that's brilliant. That's a really good sort of positive English mentality response, if you like. In terms of the rest of the first half, the game's sort of back and forth. USA get a couple of sort of opportunities, with Lavelle and Morgan opportunities sort of coming in sort of into the 30th minute mark. Comfortable saves for Telford, nothing sort of outstretched or anything like that. Just carry a couple of sort of parries to our left hand side or to our right hand side. So sort of comfortable routines type saves. But nevertheless, in terms of psychology, in terms of at that point of view, USA sort of maybe building a bit of head of steam and a bit more assertiveness in the game, which is really positive from their point of view. They've just conceded the equaliser. Would have been a bit of a shock to them to sort of concede the goal as well. So that's really positive in terms of their response. So as the game's evolved, USA, like I said, are building up some head of steam, and they actually take the lead or regain the lead again in the 31st minute. The ball's here with the number 4, Eretz. She hits a diag out to the left hand side to press. Everyone's sort of shifting over to England's point of view, keeping that sort of nice, balanced and narrow, compact shape. Obviously from USA they're looking to advance in these sort of positions in here. So looking for a combination play, so she plays one into number 8, Horan in here. So rather than playing the 1-2 back down the line, she actually cuts onto her right hand side. While this is happening in here, Morgan, who's making a blindside run on Bright, but on the inside of Stokes, and actually Stokes is the one who's sort of occupying her because Morgan sort of drifted onto that sort of position. So Bright's sort of not really aware of her. She's more in sort of Stokes' line. So Horan gets the ball in here. Actually, looks to sort of clip one over the two centre halves. As that ball sort of clipped into this position here, the ball comes in. Morgan actually makes a run in here. Stokes tries to match it. Bright hasn't recognised it, and she's actually headed home past Telford. Telford probably was slightly, maybe 1 or 2 yards over on her left hand side. It looks worse than it is in terms of her positioning, but she might not have seen the runner coming in of Morgan, and she's maybe overcovered one side of the goal, and she heads into this side of the goal, and USA have regained the lead. It's 2-1 at that point there. And actually, from the 31st minute when England conceded the second goal to the end of the first half, it really was just holding on really for England. They conceded 2 or 3 other chances. The likes of Press and Heath and even Morgan were all getting shots away. A couple of sort of scary moments, one sort of semi-clean off the line as well, second phases from corners, etc. There really were in a lot of sort of holding on positions, really, sort of a lot of emergency defending from England's point of view in terms of the centre halves and full-backs. Nevertheless, they did hold on, and that was a really important actually part of the game, because I can imagine Phil Neville thinking, we need to hold on here, we need to hold on. We can't go 2 goals down against this level of opposition, you know, in the semi-final of the World Cup, because the game will be getting away from them. But like I said, it finished 2 at half time. There was one other chance that England had in the first half. It was just a strike from Walsh from about 30 yards out. Actually, the goalkeeper knew her there, has made an absolute world of a save. It was going top corner. But not much was sort of mentioned about it. And I watched the game throughout the week, and the commentator didn't really even get that excited about it. It was a really world-class save. So that was sort of 2-1 at half time. And Phil Neville could sort of get into his team at half time and, you know, sort of maybe change some tactics or sort of get into his players and really motivate them going into the second half of this World Cup semi-final of 2019. So into the second half, and the game for the first sort of 10-15 minutes is quite nervy. No one's really creating any chances, but both have sort of secure positions in their defensive areas, but not looking sort of too dangerous. So eventually, it almost looked like a game of chess really. So from both managers' point of view and even both the sort of personnel on the team, no one really wanted to sort of force it until they sort of needed to. So eventually, Phil Neville, obviously in this position here, losing 2-1, they make the first change, or the first sort of moment where they've had to sort of change something in the game, and it was personnel in this case. So Hamid comes off the number 7. Paris actually moves to the right hand side. She has actually played a lot of the tournament on the right hand side and had a really good combination with Lucy Bronze on that right hand side for most of the tournament. But Fran Kirby comes on and plays up front with Ellen White. And what happens is Walsh picks up the ball here at number 4 for England, and they were looking to sort of encourage to play a lot more sort of passes into Kirby, who's playing more in the pocket sort of area. And eventually they fizz one through between the number 8 and the number 4 for the USA, which is Eriksson Horan. And as that ball's played first time in there, England have worked on playing that first time ball through to maybe Ellen White, or it might be Kirby in the other instance, or if Paris in those positions. So that the reason why they do that is because the centre halves or the defenders might not be set and they might not be organised. So that decisive killer ball can unlock a defence and inevitably get a chance or even score a goal. So Fran Kirby plays a really clever ball into this position here. Ellen White's through on goal between both the centre halves here, and she has a really mature, composed, sort of deadly type finish, and she sort of left foot bends into that bottom corner there. This is on the 69th minute. England 2-2 in the game. Brilliant, really brilliant finish actually, and it says a lot about Ellen White, how she looks like a natural born goal scorer really. She didn't look like she was ever going to miss. She knew exactly where the goal was, she knew exactly where the goalkeeper was, she knew exactly what movement and her body shape was going to be before she even struck the ball. So that says to me that she really was a assured sort of position, assured in them types of positions, and knew exactly what she was going to do. So the ball's been put into the net, goal's been given, England celebrate, and then on the as that's sort of going on, and England sort of running back to their own half, there's actually a VAR decision. So they're checking for VAR, the referee checks it, listening to the person from obviously the VAR, I don't know if it's called the fourth official, the video assistant referee, sorry. Eventually they decide that it was marginally offside, probably a maximum a foot width of Ellen White's foot, which was offside, and offside's offside, so that's the correct decision. Obviously England wouldn't have seen it that way in that precise moment, the World Cup of the semi-final with 20 minutes to go, plus stoppage time, they would have felt aggrieved, but it was the right decision. So VAR in that instance there done its job really, so no arguments there. England make a couple of other substitutions, they take off a winger for a winger, and USA make a couple of different changes as well, sort of just to freshen up a little bit. Lavelle actually picks up an injury, and then a midfielder comes on to replace her. But England at this moment are still pressing, not actually creating any chances, but they're looking to sort of get a foothold in the game and take the game to the US. But actually it's US at that moment there, actually looking at the more dangerous team. They had a couple of counter-attacking opportunities with Morgan and Heath and Press and others sort of joining in, but couldn't capitalise on scoring that third goal and really killing the game. So that takes me to the next key moment in the game. It takes us to the 79th minute. England obviously are pressing for that equaliser. They need that second goal to take it and force it to extra time. They pick up the ball here, the number 11 here, the white player Mead. She actually finds herself in the inside sort of left position / central area. Stokes at this point here, and both full-backs are already advanced, but Stokes on the left-hand side, she actually makes a really brilliant overlap and run. The ball sort of fed into this position here. She actually is actually well advanced of the USA backline, but because she's in a wide area, she can't actually go for goal herself. In the meanwhile, Ellen White's making a run inside the box. Both centre halves are retreating and left backs retreating to the side of the box. Kirby's trying to support as well. The ball comes in, and as Ellen White's making that run in there, centre halves is trying to retreat and try and make a sort of challenge towards the ball. Ellen White looked like, for all love or money, she looked like she had a tap in at the front post, so she could siphon it into the near post and equalise for England. But somehow she sort of falls over and misses the ball altogether. The ball sort of goes into this sort of wide position here, gets cleared, goes out for a corner. But her reaction was really interesting. She appeared for a penalty straight away, and I remember watching the game and I didn't think it was a penalty at all. I thought, how she missed that? What's gone on there? But then when you start thinking of the events, thinking, well, she's got an easy tap in there. Well, how would she fall over? And you watch it back as sort of the number 6 here, Dal Kemper's running back. Her knee collides with one of, I think it's the left foot of Ellen White, and that's enough to sort of break her stride as she's about to approach the ball and make contact. And that's why she misses the ball. It looks a lot worse than it is, but that sort of small sort of touch was enough to, well, obviously force Ellen White not to score the goal, or certainly not to get a strike on goal. So anyway, the ball goes out for a corner, and the referee's checking to see if it's sort of, is there anything there, is there a penalty or anything, so it's gone to VAR. They've had a look, unsure. So VAR sort of stumbled. Remember, this is still the 79th minute, they're sort of unsure what's going on. Eventually, the video assistant referee, which I'll just bring over here, goes to the side of the pitch. The referee has a look and actually looks at the VAR monitor on the side of the pitch and makes a decision herself. So eventually, after sort of long consultation with VAR and then obviously looking at the VAR monitor herself, she decides to actually award England a penalty. So a massive lifeline for England in this game. Semi-final of the World Cup, just gone past the 80th minute mark, and they've got a reprieve here in terms of a penalty. So one other note to sort of mention in terms of the penalties, Nikita Parris is number 7 in this case here after all the subs. England have had 3 penalties in the competition already. She's actually missed 2 out of the 3. So she doesn't actually step up for the penalty. Now, I'm not sure who, if Ellen White, who's England's top goal scorer, why she didn't take it. Maybe she just doesn't fancy penalties. You get some players who don't like taking penalties, and she might be one of them. But eventually, Houghton, the number 6 for England here, the skipper, she steps up. Just a quick note to add, it's now the 84th minute. So it's been 5 minutes from when the penalty has been awarded. It's gone to VAR. Well, initially it went for a corner, then it went to VAR, then it went to the TV monitor on the side, and then it's decided that Houghton's going to take the penalty. So it's 5 minutes gone, so it's a lot of sort of time to think, especially if, I've no doubt Houghton would have known she was taking the penalty if it did come to it. But maybe psychologically, just that pressure gets her thinking about what I'm going to do, what I'm going to do, what I'm going to do. I'm going to blast it, I'm going to place it, I'm going to finesse it. What way did she dive before in terms of knew the goalkeeper? Do I go the same way, do I go opposite place? So maybe a little bit sort of psychologically sort of played a part, possibly in the penalty. So she steps up, strikes the ball. I'll just put her into this sort of position here. Give her the ball, everyone else is sort of back in here. She's got the ball in there on the penalty spot. She strikes the ball reasonably well, curls it to this bottom corner to the goalkeeper's right hand side. Neuer's made a brilliant sort of diving save to her right hand side and makes a save. Fantastic save. Some people will say it's a comfortable save, but you bear in mind it's the semi-final of the World Cup. You know, there's a lot on the line, and it's the 85th minute, and she's obviously trying her best to sort of help the country. And Neuer's stepped up there and done really, really well. So 84th minute gone, and England have missed a gilt-edged opportunity to equalise. In terms of the rest of the game, this is a masterclass from USA. There was 7 minutes awarded in the rest of the game, in terms of injury time, sorry. And from the 84th minute to the 90th minute, it was England huffing and puffing, didn't create anything, didn't create one chance. But from minutes 90 to 97, the ball stayed in this position over here. The likes of Morgan and Press and Horan and others just kept the ball in this position here. England couldn't get the ball off them. They're marked. It's almost like they had a training session on, do you know what, we're going to keep the ball in this position. We know exactly if we're going to protect the ball with our body, and depending on where the whites are, how we're going to protect the ball. If the opposition's here, we're going to protect it, where we're going to protect the ball in terms of our body shape. How many players are we going to commit? If we're going to kick the ball against an opponent to win a throw-in or a corner, how do we do that? It's almost like they've learned how to sort of work on that. And it was 7 minutes of keeping the ball in that corner. Honestly, for England's point of view and Phil Neville's point of view, that must have been so frustrating. They couldn't get the ball up there. Maybe once the ball got kicked out clearance, but then the ball came back within about 15 seconds. It must have been so frustrating for England and for Phil Neville. But the game fizzled out. It wasn't like there was no, Champions League final '99 like Manchester United against Bayern Munich, where there was an onslaught and United were, loads of crosses and loads of corners and chances and keeper getting thrown up to try and get an equaliser. There's none of that at all. So it must have been so frustrating for Phil Neville and the England team. So eventually England lose out and USA win the semi-final. A brilliant win for them, and obviously a disappointing result for England. Phil Neville's first opportunity in the World Cup, and it ends in disappointment really. So that must have been frustrating for them. In terms of the US and Jill Ellis, that's back-to-back finals for them. They've actually won 4 World Cups already. So I think it's quite important to sort of mention sort of some of the statistics in terms of the pedigree, if you like, of the US and England. So England, they've only been at 5 World Cups, and the best they finished was 3rd, and that was 4 years earlier. They finished 3rd in that World Cup. Whereas USA, on the other hand, they've been to 8 World Cups, so 3 more. Granted, the personnel might not be the same, so they might not have obviously the same amount of experience, but they've won 4. They've been the runner-up once, and they've finished 3rd, 3 times. So they're the worst they've finished is 3rd in a World Cup, and they I should mention at this point here, they go and beat France in the final 2-0. So very comfortable win for them in terms of the scoreline anyway. I'm not sure how the game exactly went, but yeah. So they've got huge pedigree in World Cups. They obviously have got a system and a method and a way of working that helps them getting deep into the competitions and into these tournaments, and it's a formula that works for them. So yeah, they've obviously got a lot more pedigree than England, and England obviously that's where they're aspiring to get to, and that's why it's such a big game for these girls to sort of try and beat the US and reach a final and try and get that one step further and reaching the final. Just a few other statistics to sort of mention as well. Nothing sort of too over the top in terms of possession. England actually had more possession of the football, 57 to 43% possession. In terms of shots in the game, USA actually had 14 and England had 10. On target, they both had 4 each, which is a reasonable tally. In terms of corners, 2 apiece, so again, no one sort of outstanding in that department either. And then fouls also as well. England committed 12, USA 9. So maybe a few of them fouls might have sort of happened in the sort of end of the game when USA were keeping the ball in that far sort of corner there, and England players getting really frustrated. So like I said, the USA go on to win the final. Brilliant win for them. They've won plenty of games in the World Cup. They've actually played 49 games in the World Cup so far in history, and they've won 39. So they've won 39 out of 49 games. They've drawn 4 and they've lost 6. So that is an unbelievable record in World Cup finals. And obviously, like I said earlier, they've got some formula there that works for them, and other nations are aspiring to get there. In terms of goals scored and goals conceded as well, they've scored 136 goals in them 8 tournaments and conceded only 38. So that's plus 98 goal difference if you want to look at it that way as well. So yeah, they're doing fantastic, and they deserve exactly what they did deserve, which was the World Cup win in France, and that's a fantastic win for them. Right guys, that ends episode 5 of Asian One-to-One Football Coaching. Like I said earlier, subscribe to the channel, like the channel, leave a little comment if you want as well, and we'll see everyone on the next episode.